Creepy times ahead. Join us as we talk about the strange, the unknown, and the unexplained. Things that shouldn't happen, but do. If it's nighttime where you are, dim the lights, sit back, relax, and listen intently as we explore the edges of reality. Welcome to Paratalk.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Paratalk. I'm Gareth Davies, and once again, I'm joined by paranormal enthusiast Reeves Cooke. This week, we look into a new release of a documentary/drama, which both Reeves and myself have watched and thought was absolutely wonderful. And we thought it only fair that we share this with the Paratalk audience. I'm talking, of course, about the brand new Blu-ray release of Borley Rectory. Hello, Reeves.
Hello, Gareth. Yes, Borley Rectory. It's so refreshing to have a program or a film or a docu-film come out that is actually kind of, follows the story to a T, really.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so refreshing.
Yeah, that's one of the main things that it really was like a glass of water on a hot day because Borley Rectory, this is legendary in paranormal circles, and it was labeled for many years the most haunted house in England. Famed psychic researcher Harry Price was the principal investigator into the case. And I think both you and I have talked about this case many times over the years. And there's never been a kind of definitive documentary about this case until now. This Blu-ray came out, I believe, around August or September 2019. And it's simply called Borley Rectory. And it stars Jonathan Rigby and Reese Shearsmith. Those names might be familiar to people in the UK, especially the Reese Shearsmith. He's one of the League of Gentlemen, Inside Number 9, Psychoville. Somebody who is very much into the horror genre, so to speak, but not necessarily a believer in the paranormal. Now, the Blu-ray itself contains not only the documentary/drama, and I'll get into why it is a documentary/drama in just a moment, but it also contains, I think, over 3 hours of behind-the-scenes making of, all the things that went into creating this masterpiece, in a way, of ghost storytelling.
No, they really did They really sort of did their research. Where a lot of these paranormal programs fall down, especially like the films and that, is they either go for the horror scare aspect and they start to add things that clearly that never happened. I mean, we get that with I think The Conjuring 2, where they had it was the Enfield, wasn't it? The Enfield case, and it started off. It had the vibe. It had that 70s vibe. It was cool. And then it just went stupid. It just, where they started to invent stuff and the things that clearly never happened in the case. But with this film, it's kind of, for anyone that is looking for something a little more than just a film, it's more, I wouldn't say it holds your hand, but it certainly does tell the tale of the account of Borley through the years, with a narrator, but it's not, the narrator doesn't really dominate the film. It's kind of, there is a film in there, but it's kind of broken up into sort of sections, which is kind of a real kind of interesting way of doing it.
Well, the film itself, it's I'm just going to say it. It is a documentary, but it's a dramatized documentary. And it's done in such a wonderful way. It's like it's animated and it's real footage combined in a way that's it's magical to watch. It's got a very ethereal quality when you watch the film. I don't know if you noticed this, but when you watch it, you see these little specks and grains drifting around in the image to give it that kind of otherworldly quality.
I have to say that when I watched it, I don't want to. Everyone knows the story of Borley, so I'm not really spoiling anything. But one of the ways that they've captured it is they filmed it in black and white, and it's got that old school kind of look to it. But I kind of forgot that it was sort of 10 minutes into the film. I forgot that it was in black and white. I was just so engrossed in the story and the retelling of it in a very different way. I mean, everyone knows the story of Borley. Everyone knows who the Bulls were and who lived there and what happened. But it's the way that it's done. It's quite creepy as well. I mean, there was one part in it that really did send a shiver down my spine. And it was like, well, it's not really a horror film, and I know the story, but the way they've done it was very creepy.
Well, that's true. And I remember you mentioning to me, because you watched it before I did. And you said you told me that there was one moment in the movie that really unnerved you.
Yes,
and
it did.
And you said, "Well, you go ahead and watch it, and let me know if you can tell which moment it is." And then a day or so later, we were talking, and I said, "I think I've got it right, Reeves," and I think I nailed it. I said, "I'm not going to tell the listeners." What part I'm talking about. You're just gonna have to watch it. But there's one particular scene which is very unnerving, and if you're watching this scene at night, alone, with the lights down low and just the glow of the television screen illuminating your darkened room, and this scene comes on, it's gonna give you chills. Let's put it that way.
Definitely, it definitely will. I mean, it was just a very creepy moment, and I thought, I don't want that to be me.
So the film itself is filmed, as you say, in black and white, and almost everything you see is computer generated, except for when they show images, actual images that were created during the investigation of the haunting. There's a particularly really good moment where they show Harry Price's ghost hunting kit. And it's from a photograph, but it's a real photograph, and you can see all of the things that he had in his bag of tricks to investigate the haunting. It was all filmed on green screen, so in other words, the actors would come out in the period dress. They'd be dressed, as if it was, the 1930s, and they'd be acting in front of a green screen, and then in post-production they'd go in and they'd animate and add the background, add the sets in later, and this really adds to the otherworldly feeling of the documentary. It really does add to it in a wonderful way, and the narrator, who's Julian Sands, he narrates the story of Borley Rectory, and when he comes to certain parts, then they'll reenact that part in the film, done to some great effect.
Really is. I do think that where they have got pictures, they have used them, and the way that they bring the house back to life is very clever, because they've taken those pictures and they've kind of scaled it to make it look like the house is there,
right?
And the way that they've kind of recreated the pictures from inside the house, they have recreated in a way that they've given them depth, and it's very cleverly done.
They recreate the house completely. I mean, the house is long gone. It was burned down, so it doesn't exist anymore. But obviously there are floor plans and blueprints and photographs of the house. So with the use of computer technology and green screen, they've gone through and recreated the house in its entirety. So when you see the actors, open the front door and walk in, and you see the stairway and the rooms, all of the rooms that you see are the actual rooms of Borley Rectory recreated in 3D space and done to great effect. So it's an actual, to-scale recreation of the building, even though the building hasn't existed for, 70 or 80 years.
Yeah, quite a while. I think it's great that you can watch a program like this, and there are no... Well, I wouldn't say there are no scares in it. There are some quite spooky bits in it, but it's not... there's no gore or anything like that, because it's not that kind of program.
No, it's not.
But I think that it does kind of take in all of the aspects of the story and a little bit more. So it gives you a little bit of background behind the individuals who were involved in the case, and it gives you a little bit of insight where you might not necessarily gain that through just watching a few small clips on YouTube or any other online source, where you think, there's a few things in there that I wasn't aware of. I thought, I didn't know that, and you learn something new, and it just that kind of shows you the passion that went into making it, but also the importance as well to get as much stuff in the program that was relevant and that had been researched, that they could present to sort of put it all together and say, well, here it is, enjoy, rather than just saying, oh, we're just going to do this and it's going to scare people and that'll be fine. So I think, I out of all of the paranormal docu-films that have come out in the last year or so, maybe the last couple of years, this is up there with, top tier stuff.
Yeah.
It really is.
So the director is Ashley Thorpe, and he'd been working on this project for many, many years, trying to get it done. He did a brief outline and hired Julian Sands to do the narration many years ago, probably around 2011, 2012.
Yeah, they did like a little teaser,
and
it was about 2 minutes long, just to get the feel for it, to get people interested. And I remember seeing that a couple of years ago and thinking, this looks interesting. I like the style that they're doing here. And then it kind of all went quiet.
So he did. He couldn't get any traction, so he did one of these GoFundMe internet funding. And that's what funded the release. The film was completed in 2017, but it wasn't released on publicly on Blu-ray. I think it was like August, September of 2019 is when it came out. I got my hands on it just before Christmas 2019. And I'll give you a little, I'll read a little outline from the back of the Blu-ray. It says, Borley Rectory is an animated documentary chronicling what came to be known as the most haunted house in England. The legends attracted to the rectory are famed paranormal investigator Harry Price, and the subsequent investigations caught the public's imagination of the 1930s, in time becoming one of the world's most notorious ghost stories and influencing Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House and Richard Matheson's Hell House. And when you think about that, if you've seen the classic movie, the Haunting of Hill House and Hell House, you can absolutely see the influences of Borley in both of those films.
Yeah, definitely. There is influence, especially sort of the Haunting of Hill House. I mean, and it's that kind of aspect of that old school horror suspense kind of film, where you've even got the music. The score is great. It's kind of the old classic sound, old classic music, and you've got that kind of feel to it. But it's kind of, it puts it over in a very modern way, so that it's not all sort of old worldy, and it's more a little bit of modernism in it, and it's kind of very, very. It kind of flows. You don't need to do any mental gymnastics. It's kind of on the screen.
Right.
Just enjoy it. And it's just a great film.
Yeah,
it really is enjoyable. It's
wonderful, and I think both Reeves and myself highly recommend this film to all Paratalk listeners. So how do you get a hold of it? Well, there's if you're in the UK, you should be able to get a hold of it relatively easy. As far as I know, it's not available on any streaming services yet. So the only way you can get a hold of it is actually purchase the DVD or the Blu-ray. I strongly recommend getting the Blu-ray because of the higher quality, the image quality. And you should be able to get it in the UK, from HMV or whatever, anywhere that sells Blu-rays, or you can just go to amazon.co.uk and purchase it there. For U.S. listeners, if you're in the U.S. and you want to get a hold of this Blu-ray, and I strongly recommend that you do, the good news is that the Blu-ray itself is it's essentially region free. So even though the Blu-ray is a product of the UK and released for UK audiences, the Blu-ray can be played on North American Blu-ray players without issue. So you could purchase it in the UK, take it home, throw it into your Blu-ray player, and it'll play perfectly. I purchased my copy from eBay. Went on eBay, did a search, found one, and ordered it and it was from the UK, and they shipped it over to me. I believe if you go to Amazon.com, you should be able to find it there also, but prices will vary because this will be an import because it is not available domestically in the US as yet. But I strongly recommend getting your hands on it. If you're a fan of high-quality, ghostly tales that just so happen to be true.
Definitely. Pick it up.
Pick it up. There you go.
Pick it up.
That wraps it up for this episode of Paratalk. I hope you've enjoyed it. Go get the DVD or the Blu-ray and enjoy it and let us know what you think. And we'll be back very soon with some more Paratalk.